Hey guys, welcome to your pick a card reading. So this reading is going to be about what message is trying to come through to you from the other side. So if you are here, that means that somebody on your spirit team, so guardian angel, spirit guide, ancestor, anyone that you work with has brought you here today for one of the messages in one of these videos. So we're going to take a second here to tap in, go ahead and feel which of these piles is calling out to you, pile 1, 2, or 3. Each of these will use the same 3 decks. I just have the different backing shown. So if you are a little bit more visually drawn to one of them, maybe that's the one that's got a message for you today. So before I get into that, I'm going to talk about the cards on the bottom of the deck. So this is kind of like background energy that can apply to all of them, but it's maybe not necessarily something you can act on. This is just a little bit more confirmation, maybe for some. So, okay, we've got these up here so you can still see them. All right, so we've got Temperance, 7 of Swords, and the Seer. So Temperance card is all about kind of having to, work with the energy or the time that you have in order to try and accomplish all the things that you want to accomplish. And so in order to do that, you have to kind of cut down in one area of your life. You have to kind of temper back on it in order to have those resources, whether it be that time, that money, that energy, that something to give to this other thing that you have going on. So it could be that your spirit guides are wanting you to kind of like stop doing something for the time being in order to focus on this other thing for now. Maybe they've been trying to get you to stop doing this one thing that you have been kind of holding on to it. I am also guilty of that from time to time, as I think we all are. Our egos get kind of latched onto certain things, and so it becomes a little bit difficult to let go of them. So that's one card here. So that's one little background energy thing. The next one is the 7 of Swords, also kind of holding on to something a little bit tightly here. But with it, it's like, if you're trying to hold on to this, you won't be able to kind of carry all of the swords here. A couple of these swords are kind of falling out of his cloak. And so that could be one of the reasons why they're wanting you to kind of cut back on this other thing, is you won't have, your hands will already be full with this other thing that you won't be able to catch this other opportunity that they're trying to throw your way. So we've got that. And then the other one here is the Seer. The Seer is all about kind of like, it's like the High Priestess card of this Oracle deck. And this is the companion deck to the Ethereal Vision. So we've got the Ethereal Visions, this one here technically, and then the Luna edition of the Ethereal Visions, and then the kind of like companion Oracle deck with that, the Dreamscape Oracle. If you like any of these decks, these are all available on my website as well. I will link that down below. Just wanted to toss that out now before I forgot. I'm really bad about promoting my stuff, so I'm trying to be better. Okay. So this here is kind of like the High Priestess card of this deck, and so kind of with this, it's like, I think you intuitively kind of know what this thing is, kind of like what it is you're holding on to a little bit tightly and what it is your spirit guides are trying to get you to kind of like transition into here. Ultimately it's like we all have all of the archetypes within us, and so we all have a little bit of the High Priestess. It just kind of like comes out in different prevalences and in different people. And so with that here, it's like, your intuition brought you here, your intuition has guided you along your path up until this point. You know to trust it, and you know that kind of the things it's telling you are real, and you're getting those intuitive hits. And so yeah, may as well keep listening to that and see where it's trying to take you. So let's go ahead and get into these piles now. Ooh, oh no. Yikes. All right, so for the first 3 Oracle cards for pile 1, we've got the Justice card, the Knight of Swords, and the Page of Swords. So first thing I am drawn to for your guys is all of your characters look very similar, and they are all holding a sword. So 2 of these here are in the suit of swords, and then you've got the Major Arcana Justice, which is holding that big sword, which to me I read a lot as the Ace of Swords. Same with the Knight, he's holding the Ace of Swords, and the Page of Swords is also holding that Ace of Swords. So with all of that, I think there's kind of like a new idea on the precipice here. I feel like that could be kind of one of the things that your spirit guides or team is trying to kind of guide you into, is something that's a little bit more like brand new than something you've done before, and particularly with it being the sword, like it's an Ace of Sword or it's in the Suit of Swords, that's something that kind of requires a different mindset or way of thinking about things, which can sometimes be a little bit hard to adapt to just because I feel like such mind operated beings. It's like, we're in a very like mentally focused society, and so we kind of have to use our head a lot in a lot of things. And so when we kind of like get into a good mental habit or routine with something, it's very comfortable, it's familiar. Honestly, it's a little exhausting to try to make a new routine and stick to it and stuff. So I could see how that could be a little bit daunting to kind of like get into this for you. But with that being here, I do think that is one of the things that your spirit team is trying to bring out for you. But let's get into the actual meanings of the specific cards. So the first one here is Justice, which is a major arcana card. So the Justice card is all about balance. It's like things being righted, wrongs being made up for, kind of. With the card being upright here, I feel like kind of like one of the new ways of thinking about something will in some way kind of involve how you view like justice or fairness in some way, or maybe this new path for you will involve kind of like righting a wrong or a wrong being righted for you, something about that kind of karmic balance being restored in some way. And so that also, when those balances do shift, or the balances do kind of even out here, the scales, that could also be the signifier for the start of whatever this new thing is that's trying to come into your life too, because the Ace of Sword can also represent and bring in a lot of new things for us along with that. So Justice card here. So the next one here is the Knight of Swords, and I'm feeling called to actually draw the first of the next ones. Okay, so Two of Wands in reverse, very interesting. So felt called to pull that now, as opposed to later like I was planning. So this is going to be kind of like in between the Justice card and that Knight of Swords here. So this is kind of like a past, present, and future. So this is kind of like the foundation of the situation is in some way this kind of like restoration of balance being achieved. The kind of like linking card between that and kind of like how you are, where you are currently, is this Two of Wands in reverse. Two of Wands, when it's upright, is about being able to kind of like pick which general direction you want to head in. So it's whether, this guy, he's on his little observatory, he can look out and pick whether he wants to sail away or walk away or ride away on a horse or something, with like the water and the land here. And so with it being in reverse, it could be that with whatever this situation was here, you didn't really have an option or as much of an option as you thought you did. You may have thought you had the path by land or the path by sea, but it turns out you really only could have walked the land path. Your boat wasn't, you didn't have a boat, maybe it's like somebody was telling you you could have had a boat, but you never had the boat to begin with. And so, sorry, something about this is kind of like due to a lack of being able to choose or make a decision with something, or the ability to act on a decision. Maybe this could be something where it's like somebody's inaction caused an injustice as well. Something about that is linked to this kind of like where you're standing in the present now, which is this Knight of Swords. So the Knight of Swords is a very fast, quick, action-y kind of oriented card. Whenever you have the knights, there's a lot of movement with those. It's like the page is like the very beginning of this court card progression, and then when you get the knight, it's like they have a little bit more development and understanding under their belt, so they can move through their suit a little bit quicker. It's like they understand it a little bit more. And so with that being the present energy here, I think it's something that you're definitely ready to like move forward on. With this kind of Justice card being here, I think it's like, whatever part of this like story you're on, like whatever is happening, whatever you feel like you're kind of progressing towards or moving towards, I think you're in this like place of being able to take action now, and so the things that you do now will like have a lot of movement or like effect that comes after them, so the time is very ripe for action now. And if you feel like there is a situation that needs to be righted in some way, definitely your guides are saying to take action on it. If you do, I do see success coming your way, and so yeah, legal stuff out there, go ahead and do that if that's the thing that resonates with you. Okay, So the next one here is the Queen of Swords in reverse. Very interesting. So this is the one that's kind of linking this to the present. So it's interesting that we've got the Page and then the Knight and now the Queen of Swords here. It's almost like the Justice could be kind of like the step above the King maybe, or we'll take it as like a King placeholder unless he shows up in this reading. But so it's like there's like, so the Page and the Knight are both upright, but then the Queen is in reverse. So it's like, as far as kind of like where you are in this path. So it's like when you have the court cards, one of the ways I like to read them is this kind of like, again, like progression of mastery or understanding about kind of like their particular suit or a thing in it. And so with it being upright, upright, reverse, it's like you're still here. You're in this Knight of Swords. You're not in this Queen of Swords yet. So the Queen of Swords to me, as far as that kind of development undergoes, or that development is concerned, is she understands this kind of like, or sorry, she represents this kind of like understanding. And so it's like, there comes a point when you're kind of like getting into anything where it's like you're first starting out, you kind of gain a little bit of speed, you kind of know a little bit of what you're doing so you can try out some more stuff, and then you kind of start to just intuitively understand like the feel of what it is you're doing. That's kind of like the Queen of Swords, is like kind of like getting the feel of something. With it being in reverse, kind of whatever situation you're in, you're kind of like, you can't know how the situation feels until you kind of start to take action on it. And again, this is all in the Suit of Swords, so this is a like mentally activated thing. The Suit of Swords can also represent communication as well. So ideas have to travel and move through thought, or like, sorry, through speech. That's the only way we can communicate them, or like with writing and stuff like that, it's like this word, spoken word, written word, any of that kind of like verbal stuff the Suit of Swords deals with. And so with it being here, it could even be that there's something you need to like say as well or speak on, and you kind of like know you need to speak on it and you're kind of feeling like you need to take action on it, but maybe it's like, oh no, I don't know how this is going to be received. I don't know the kind of like, you know, that emotional response behind it. Excuse me. And so don't let that kind of block you from getting to where you need to go, from actually taking action on that. You know, you have to progress through things in order. You can't skip from like the Page to the Queen. So go ahead and like move on things. And, you know, worst case scenario, the best way to learn from something is by making mistakes. And with kind of like communication and stuff, it's like nothing is really final per se. It's like most of it, or you know, some stuff is. Please don't take it like that, especially with the legal stuff involved here. For some people, it's like, you know, most of the time you can have a conversation with someone. So if you say something wrong, it's usually not the end of the world. There's a little bit of time and space to kind of correct what it is that you need to say. But that's like, you know, don't worry about that kind of like correcting it before you even start and speak on it. Give it the chance to kind of get out there and be received, and then you can work on it from there. So future energy is the Page of Swords. So the Page of Swords is all about kind of like, again, that novice, brand new, like almost like kind of like a stumbling into stuff type energy. To me, it's kind of interesting. So it's like the Page of Swords is like holding this sword, so this new idea, this kind of like new mindset or thing that we've been talking about, and they're like holding it, but they're looking away from it. They're like looking back kind of towards the rest of this reading here, but to me that always strikes me as a little piece of symbolism I like to draw from, where it's almost like knowing that you have this thing, but not really quite being willing to like look at it or see it in its entirety yet. It's like maybe still a little bit scary or daunting to you, or you don't quite fully understand it or know how to deal with it yet. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling called to read this as. I feel like with this, it's kind of like that could even be one of the reasons why it's scary to take action on it, is it's kind of a thing that's maybe scary to even think about. And so it's kind of like your guides are trying to have this happen for you, but something about it just is something that is hard to look at for the time being. So we'll see kind of what we can do to like fix that, what it is that we need to address in order to make it something that sits a little bit more comfortably with you. And we've got the Three of Wands in reverse, so very interesting. All of the clarifying cards are in reverse. So this is like the Luna edition to the Illuminated edition here for the Ethereal Visions deck, which is why the artwork looks very similar. There's just kind of different colorations of each other. But so it's really interesting that it's like the light version and then the like shadow version, and they're kind of like all flipped and stuff. But okay. So, and you've got very wand heavy in here too. So again, kind of mirroring that action. In alchemy, these are both like the masculine, like the upside triangle there. So very, again, just like active, forward motion, heavy kind of reading for pile 1 here. So your guides are definitely wanting some motion out of you. You guys may be a little bit stagnant on things. I'm a Taurus. I have so much Taurus in my chart. I can definitely be a little bit stagnant from time to time. Some people would call it a little lazy, but it's like, I'm considered, just like moving smartly, But okay, so in order to get out of this here, we've got the 3 of Wands in reverse. So it's interesting with the 2 of Wands in reverse here and then that 3 of Wands in reverse. I always like to link these 2 cards together as well. So the 2 of Wands, like I talked about earlier, is kind of like, when it's upright, being able to pick kind of which general direction you want to go in, generally by sea or generally kind of like by land. And then kind of that evolves into the 3 of Wands when it's upright, when it's like after you kind of pick which general direction you want to go, and you can pick which specific path you want to go down. So you can pick which hiking trail or which, trade route you want to go by sea. I'm not a sailor. Which winds you want to take, So with this being in reverse here, kind of like to progress forward, I think kind of there's a blockage here with taking action that particularly stems from kind of feeling like you need to plan everything out. And kind of with some things, it's okay to just kind of like leap first and then look, where it's like, what is that saying? It's like leap then look. I think that is the saying. Or look then leap, but sometimes it's okay to just kind of like jump into things and then see where it's going to take you. I think kind of like with this, it's like parts of the situation are already happening and you're kind of in them, and so there's kind of only so much like planning you can do until you kind of take whatever this step is. But all right. So oracle cards, I'm just going to lay all of these out. So you've got the serpent, the spring, and the octopus. So these 2 are in reverse, and then octopus is upright. So serpent here is about kind of like the snake that gnaws at the roots of the world tree, like Yggdrasil, I think is how it's pronounced in like Norse mythology. And so with this being in reverse, I think especially with this justice card being upright here, it's kind of like, I think there may have been a situation where it felt like somebody was kind of just like, there is a snake gnawing at your roots. And so it's like, for plants, it's like, trees and plants need their roots in order to be able to grow like bigger and stronger. It's like the more branching and networking and stable and secure their roots are, it's like the more support they have to be able to grow upward. And so when we have kind of like a snake or somebody who's not super stellar in our life, kind of like spreading a little bit of toxicity, gnawing at our roots a little bit, and so they kind of, in a sense, take away a little bit of our energy or our ability to kind of support and nurture ourselves, so we can't kind of grow as tall as we should be able to. With the justice card being here and this being in reverse, I feel like there is going to be like you overcoming a situation that's kind of like this. And again, justice card is upright, so justice will prevail, whichever way that may fall. So maybe some of you have been the snake, maybe not, maybe it's time to stop being a snake. But okay, so the next one here is the spring. So this card is kind of similar to the world card, where it's all about this kind of like this spring. It's like this abundant, kind of like giving, flowing, moving, kind of mysterious thing. There is this maiden who gazes into it and sees her reflection, but it is ever shifting across its surface. With this, being in reverse here, I feel like kind of like with that shifting of just like her across the surface that I was kind of seeing, it's like, I feel like you could have been kind of in a situation where it's like, almost like you couldn't quite see yourself fully. Is like the thing that it wanted me to say that I was kind of like beating around the bush for, I guess. It's like, I feel like something about this situation, or kind of like something about kind of like this new way of thinking or mindset that they're trying to bring your attention to here that requires a little bit of action. I feel like there's something about the situation that you maybe just can't quite like see yourself in, and that's one of the reasons why it's a little bit hard to kind of like get to this or get through it. It could be something that's maybe a little bit so different from things that you've done before that it's almost kind of like hard to imagine a little bit. With that being here, it is just kind of bringing like they are bringing to your attention that they are kind of like aware of that, like they're aware that this is maybe a little bit different or unusual or something that you're not quite used to doing, but that's not always necessarily a bad thing. You know, sometimes we need to experience new things in order to kind of like broaden our horizons a little bit. And the last card here is the octopus card. So octopus is octopi, whatever you want to call them, are very awesome creatures. You know, they are very intelligent. They can like problem solve just really hard puzzles that scientists give them, which is cool. Imagine having a job where you just get paid to give animals puzzles. How neat. But you know, they work through these things. They have really extensive camouflage where they can like hyper pigment or change the pigment of certain little blotches of their skin. And yeah, fit through really tight spaces. Kind of with this here, there's like adaptability is kind of like the thing that's popping to mind. So with this here, I think adaptability is kind of like the key word. Is like, you know, life throws a lot of things at you, and really it's like you need to be able to kind of like adapt to these different circumstances. And even though kind of what they're trying to get you to do is something that is a little bit different, I think there's something here that will be kind of like good for the rest of your path that kind of like comes out of this, which is why they keep drawing you back to this. So yeah, that is what I have for you guys, pile one. If you like this, go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Or if you liked any of these decks, you can purchase them on my website, which is linked down below. So thank you so much, guys. Have a good one. Take care. Bye. All right, pile two. Welcome, welcome. So let's do your first cards. All right, so what is your spirit team trying to get through to you? So we've got the King of Swords, the Eight of Swords, and the Seven of Wands. All right, very interesting. The pile one was also very sword heavy, shuffled fully between each of the readings, so that's very interesting. So this one is kind of like a past, present, future spread, and then I'm going to pull clarifying cards between them and then do the oracle cards at the end. So for the first one here, you've got the King of Swords. So the King of Swords is all about kind of like this full mastery of the suit of swords, which is kind of like rooted in the element of air, which deals with thoughts, communication, and kind of like all of these kind of like mental thought, mind realm kind of type things. And so to me, the kings kind of represent this kind of like full mastery of it, where it's like that kind of like that last, like in the zodiac wheel, it's kind of like the last grouping of the zodiacs, where it's like, you know, they're the like older ones, they're the mature ones, they've kind of like been around the block a little bit more, so they kind of like have a little bit more experience under their belt. And so because with that experience kind of comes like wisdom and understanding and this kind of just like, I don't know, like respect almost in this particular field. But one of the things that your spirit guides, like that they've been trying to get through to you about this, is they kind of like want you to develop a little bit of this mastery, or kind of if you have anybody around you who kind of like embodies this mastery, now would be a really good time to start working with them. And something about that kind of like anchoring there is like the key word that came to my mind there is like anchoring. Something about that is like going to be the key focus of their message here, is like that in the element of air, so that in this kind of mental realm. So we've got that there. Let's go ahead and get this first clarifying card. Oh my god, I almost even said this kind of reminds me of the Emperor, but it's very interesting. The clarifying card is the Emperor in reverse. So it is, so the Emperor is kind of like the major arcana version of all of the kings together, or it's kind of like the kings are the minor arcana version of the Emperor, really, because the major arcana came first. But so it's interesting that it's like the Emperor in reverse, but that King of Swords upright. So it's almost like just the King of Swords aspect is what's wanting to come through. It's not the full Emperor. It's not this like full divine masculine, kind of like pure yang action structure, you know, dynamic intelligence, you know, like whatever kind of type vibe. Sorry, I picked up on a little bit of that cosmic tune of the divine masculine. But it's like, it's just this mental, it's like somebody who is very intelligent, somebody who is very like sharp-witted, somebody who is very like good with their words and like has a quick comeback for everything, or a quick response to everything. So for some of you, if this is a person, those can be some kind of like things that embody this person, or things that your spirit team are trying to have you embody. But it's very like mentally focused. There's this almost like sharpening and honing of the mind that's trying to come through, rather than just like that general structure. Sorry, that's how I read the Divine Masculine a lot, is just kind of like structure. It's almost like the math that holds everything up rather than the stuff that kind of fills it out. Or like it's like in video games, it's like when you're making characters, it's like the like rigging underneath it is the Divine Masculine, and then it's like the stuff you put on top of it that makes it look really pretty, and like, you know, what it ultimately is, that's like the Divine Feminine. But it's in reverse, so maybe that just had to come through for somebody who's watching this. But okay, so that's going to be the focus here. And so kind of what that is leading you into, so kind of like the present feeling that you're in, so this is the developed situation, this is where you're currently in, is the Eight of Swords. So for some people, if this is a person, somebody who is so for some people this is going to be a slightly toxic situation. That could be one of the things your spirit team has been trying to get through to you, is that you may be in a toxic situation. And maybe that's a little bit hard of a pill to swallow. Totally get that. Have been there. I think a lot of us have been there. And so it could be saying, you know, with that Emperor in reverse, this is not your Emperor. Particularly the Eight of Swords is a very trapped card, obviously. And so, you know, sometimes it's like, you know, there are negative embodiments of these cards. So somebody who is very good with their mind, somebody who is very sharp and quick-witted, can also sometimes be manipulative if that's a negative aspect of it. And this is a new deck, so most of the cards are going to be facing the same direction. I don't have a lot of reversals yet, so that could be why the Emperor came up in reverse for some people. But for other people, because that will not be everyone's situation, you know, hopefully hope that some of the people who are out here watching are in healthy relationships. For other people, this is just going to be kind of like a like internal kind of like feeling of being trapped. So the Eight of Swords is a very trapped feeling card, as you can tell by her being very bound and helpless and having these swords and stuff around here, and like, oh no, it's like a kidnapping type almost like card is what it gives. But with this card being here, it's like, you know, for the people who this is not about a particular person in their life, this is kind of just more so, it's like they're wanting you to master your own kind of mental landscape and stuff. I think it's like because you feel trapped by a situation or circumstances, or you feel trapped by something that you're needing to kind of mentally work yourself out of. For some people, this could even be like mentally trapped by your own circumstances, or you feel a little bit even trapped by your own mind. The thing that comes after the Eight of Swords is the Nine of Swords, which is a lot of times about kind of like depression, anxiety, our mind getting the best of us, and that negative voice kind of being very mean to us. Usually we start being mean to ourselves when we start to feel helpless and like we need to kind of be mean to ourselves to motivate us or get us moving or something. And so with this being here, you know, that's kind of where you're currently in, or what position you feel like you're in. But the real beauty of the Eight of Swords is, even though she is fully bound right here and blindfolded, she has everything she needs around her to escape. You know, she has these swords behind her. And so if she, you know, you can't see it, but her feet are not bound. So if she can kind of walk around a little bit and try to explore what little bit of her environment she can find one of those swords, which represents ideas, mindset, way of thinking about something, and use that to free herself. Not that a mindset will just fix all of your problems, but sometimes it's like we need to kind of like get out of ourselves a little bit. Like, you know, we can get so wrapped up in our own little like pity parties and stuff, and like, hey, you know, I have been clinically depressed and stuff. I know it is exceptionally difficult to kind of get out of a hole when we kind of keep digging it, and like, I get it. It is not easy. But sometimes it's like we just need, it's not saying that it's like, oh, just like be happy, just start thinking about things a little bit better. But sometimes that little subtle shift that we do have internally in our mind really can make a big difference. Like, I know my therapist had me write down like, you know, just like 10 good things that I liked every day, or like, you know, 10 good things that happened to me when I was super depressed. And, you know, It was really hard to do when I first started. I couldn't even write down 10 things, but eventually, after doing it for a couple of weeks, I was able to fill it up no problem. And so it's like sometimes just those really small shifts in mindset really can make a big difference, even if it doesn't feel like they can. And so if this is not depression for you, maybe you're stuck in a job that you hate and every day feels day in, day out, and you just can't escape it. Just starting with little things, or it's like every day noticing 10 things that you do that are more in alignment with what you want to do, or the habits that you do want to pick up. And a lot of times, when I was writing my stuff down for depression, I would notice that like I couldn't always think of 10 things, which is sad, but awesome things happen to us all the time. We just have to look out for them. But it's like if I couldn't think of 10 things immediately, I would do something in order to give myself something that made me happy. So it's like I would get a little treat from the fridge, or go and pet my cat or something like that. And so it could be that it's like just having that mindset of being like, okay, I know I have to do 10 things or think of 10 things or whatever that's going to be more in alignment with this. It may motivate you to kind of start doing some of those things too, which can also, it's working towards your goal. It's the thing that you want to do, and it's developing that mastery and that towards what you ultimately want. Okay, so next one. Okay, so 5 of Cups. So linking card here. So 5 of Cups is all about kind of like we will feel what we choose to focus on. So kind of similar to what I was just talking about. So there are 5 cups here in the picture. There are 2 upright behind him and the 3 overturned in front of him. And so obviously it is sad. He has lost these 3 things, and so he is mourning over those 3 things, but he still has these 2 things behind him. And so sometimes when this card comes up, our spirit team is saying that we're choosing to focus too much on these kind of overturned cups here rather than these 2 cups that we still have behind us. And so if we can rather than continuing to focus on these 3 things that we no longer have, choosing to focus on and making the most with what we do have can be just what we need to do, is what came through for that. So short and sweet with that one. I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. And then for the last one here, so this is kind of like the future of the situation, we've got the 7 of Wands. And I just skipped ahead on this one because I really feel like this embodies a lot of the kind of focus thing that I was talking about. So it's like the making the list and choosing what you want to focus on, and that can kind of help with the shift of mindset. Okay, so 7 of Wands for the future. This is all about kind of being in a kind of elevated position and having these kind of it's things that are kind of beneath us, kind of wanting to grab our attention. And so with this being kind of the future of the situation, this is kind of slightly sporadic message that I feel like your spirit guides are giving. Maybe it'll feel a little bit less so when I'm going back and watching the video, as they sometimes do. But it's kind of so it's there's this anchoring of this kind of very developed mind happening here. A little bit negative for some with this Emperor in reverse, for others just really needing to focus on your own personal mental landscape. And I think in general, everyone here, it's focusing on this mental landscape. So it's getting ourselves out of kind of whatever this particular funk is or limiting belief pattern that we have by turning our focus and our attention on the things that are a little bit better suited for that purpose and becoming more of this master that we're trying to become. The thing that's kind of in the future right now is the 7 of Wands. So it's these things that are beneath us or kind of a slightly lower vibration, kind of trying to get our attention. And with the 7 of Wands being upright, sometimes we do choose to give our attention to these things. And sometimes this isn't always necessarily a bad thing. To me, the 7 of Wands can kind of almost have a kind of 6 of Cups energy to it, where it's something from the past resurfacing, but rather than a kind of emotionally focused thing, it's kind of more of a hobby, or it's the Suit of Wands deal with action and kind of things that we do. And so with it being that, sometimes it's just stuff that we did from our past resurfacing. So it's getting back into a hobby or doing a job, getting back into a job field that we left a while ago again, or Sometimes it's getting back with like a flame or something that we separated from or something like that. Depending on the reading and stuff. Sometimes not great. Sometimes, getting back into stuff that we put down that was once a passion, can be a good thing. So with this being here for the end, it's kind of like, I think one of the things that can help you kind of like get out of this funk a little bit or kind of into whatever healthier mindset you're trying to embody is by revisiting something new, or by revisit something new. You can't revisit, okay. But it's like revisiting something from your past that you may have put down, that you didn't want to. So it's something that you like really enjoyed, and for, definitely, I take this with a grain of salt for people. I'm going to try to, like, for this right now, focus more on like activities and stuff rather than like people, because I think this is kind of a little bit more what it wants to be focused on for now. But, by picking one of these things back up, I think you can find a source of inspiration and stuff from it. And I think it, for other people, I think this may be a part of your path that your guides are wanting you to incorporate a little bit more of. And so by doing that, it's like, instead of moving backwards like you may think it is, it's actually helping you progress forward. It was just time for you to spiral back around to it. All right, yay! And the last one here is the Five of Pentacles, so in reverse. So the fives in tarot are always about kind of like change, and they can sometimes be like some of the harder cards to go through. So fives in reverse are a little bit easier. Particularly the Five of Pentacles in reverse, or when it's upright, can be about kind of like ill health, financial loss, delays, kind of like stuff like this. So it's kind of like some not so great changes happening to your physical environment. With it being in reverse, I sometimes like to read that as positive changes happening in your physical environment. Particularly though, I feel like it's kind of like positive changes happening kind of after something was already kind of cut out or removed from your life. So it's like through the loss or opening of something else, there's now space for something else to kind of come into play. Solve et coagula, coagulate, a little bit of that southern coming through. But, the alchemical saying. So it's like, dissolve and then reform. And so it's like things you can't really make something unless you kind of break it down first. So it's like, the alchemists, in order to make the stuff they make, it was kind of like chemistry. You got to break stuff down into its base elements so you can then make the pure compounds that you're trying to make. And so with that being the future there, you will work through whatever this is. For some of the people where this is kind of like a personal situation here, things will get better definitely on the other side. And it won't be as hard as maybe I think that you think it is, or maybe that they are making you think that this will be. But all right, so last oracle cards here. So we've got the Palomino horse, the gift, and the tiger card. All kind of in reverse. I kind of don't super read reversals for the oracle cards, but we'll see how those play out. So for the Palomino here, so the Palomino is the horse. So it is kind of like this beautiful golden, kind of like rare version of a horse that you see in, I think, like Saudi Arabia or like these Arabic places. And it is like, they are these beautiful, majestic, free creatures, but they are also workhorses as well. And so they are these powerful beings that kind of like willingly allow themselves to be tamed. I think I will read the reversal for this. I kind of feel like with this being in reverse, it's like, I feel like you are this powerful, majestic beast who has been contained for a little bit too long. It's like good horses willingly work for good masters. And I feel like, sometimes that gets abused. If you have a horse that's really good, or you have just like, it's like someone who does a really good job, sometimes people don't always consider how the horse feels, and so with this being in reverse here, it is not a bad thing when somebody is abusing their position of power to kind of break free from that and do the things that you feel like you need to do. For the King of Swords here, this doesn't always have to be a romantic thing for some people. It could even be like business related situations for some. And so the or other kind of legal stuff that came through in the reading number 1 as well, which also had similar cards. So if you feel so inclined, go and watch pile number 1 as well. or some of you may be here from pile 1. So the other one here is the gift. So this one is kind of like a retelling of Pandora's box, where it's like when she opens the box and she released all the different gifts out into the world, and the thing that was left in the box was hope. And so it's kind of like this dichotomy of, was it a good thing or was it a bad thing? I think for this it's like she may have even released hope from the box. With this being in reverse though, I think kind of similar to the Palomino, where it was like it's like you have been kind of like controlled and tamed for too long. I feel like for a lot of you, you've kind of been looking at this box for a while, kind of wondering whether or not to open it or not. And so for some, with it being in reverse, I feel like, you know, there's something out there that you should kind of like not delve into. Or there's kind of like a can of worms you shouldn't open, so to speak. But for other people here, I kind of feel like it's like this, your spirit guides have been trying to give you a box for a long time. They have been trying to give you a gift and you haven't been opening it. I think the real kind of like thing with Pandora's box is like, you know, the gods always knew she was going to open it, you know. It wasn't necessarily like a good or a bad thing per se, it just kind of happened. And a lot of times it's like, you know, stuff isn't necessarily ever good or bad, it just kind of happens, you know, and some people react to it in the way that they do, but it happens, you know, and then it becomes a part of the story and things happen afterwards. But, you know, sometimes stuff just kind of like needs to happen, you know. And the last card here is Tigers. And so I didn't remember what this one was off the top of my head, but I just opened up the book, and some of the meanings are: overcome adversity through personal power and exert a strong will to push through tough times. And so with this being in reverse though, and kind of similar to like the Palomino horse, where it's like very strong, powerful animals, both of them, I kind of feel like the situation that you may kind of like be going through, or kind of one of the things that your spirit guides is trying to tell you, is that I think this thing may not be as hard as you think it may be. You know, kind of going through here, I feel like there is definitely going to be like a loss that happens here for sure, and I feel like you will feel that when that does happen. But I feel like kind of like overall it's like there's a certain kind of difficultness is like the specific word they wanted me to say, and also kind of like almost like a perceived pain of this that's been built up in the mind that I think doesn't necessarily need to be there. And kind of like, I think once you kind of do start to act on this and you do start to go through the motions, I think you'll kind of see that it may be a little bit easier than you thought. So that is what I have for you guys, pile number 2. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated, your guys' got a little bit further up in the I don't know, astral realm. It was your messages were a little bit harder to decipher, or a little bit more abstract in my head. So yeah, definitely that King of Swords, that very strong mental energy active here for sure. Okay, but if this did resonate with you guys, if you did like this, go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. And also, if you like the decks that I use, I've got the Illuminated and the Luna edition of the Ethereal Visions, and the Companion Oracle deck, the Dreamscape Oracle by Matt Hughes, to go along with it. If you like any of these, I sell all of the decks that I use on my website. I will go ahead and link that down below. And yeah, or if you want a personal reading, I do those as well, along with Reiki and some other stuff. So yeah, cool. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to pile number 3 now. All right, welcome, pile 3. We're going to do your oracle cards last. I'll start with these. All right, so what message have your spirit guides been trying to get through to you? So we've got the 3 of Pentacles in reverse, the 10 of Swords in reverse, and the 10 of Wands in reverse. So all in reverse here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and pull the linking cards now. Oh my gosh, and I forgot. Okay, so I'm glad I did that. So when I was shuffling for the decks, I like shuffled in between each one and then pulled independently. And when I was shuffling for pile number 3, the Hermit card actually popped out. And so it wanted me to talk about this a little bit before I got into your reading. So The Hermit card is a major arcana card. It is all about kind of like taking time to go inward in order to find kind of like a sense of purpose or the reason why we're really doing something or why it's important to us to do and act on something, or learn about it or whatever it is, the particular thing is. And it's like when we find that kind of core value or driving factor, it's like that's the thing that kind of illuminates the rest of the path in front of us moving forward. And so with the Hermit card coming up here, it's like your spirit guides kind of, I think, are wanting to draw your attention to kind of like that core value or reason. So it's like whatever it is that you're doing or whatever it is that they're kind of like trying to draw your attention to or bring your focus to. It's like, why is it important to you? Like, why is that ultimately a thing that matters to you and the progression to your path? It's like, that's not a question to shy away from or be kind of like, oh, like, why is it important to me? It's like, it's really a thing to ask yourself. It's like, okay, why is it important to me? Is this a thing that I feel like I identify with? Is this the thing that I feel like will make me happy? Is this a thing that, in some way feels connected to my soul purpose? Like, why do you want to do this? Why is this important to you? I think when you can figure that out, it kind of makes a lot of other things make sense. And it kind of like can even sometimes help a lot of things click into place and give you some answers that you had been seeking in kind of like other places. So yeah, the Hermit. Take some time to kind of go inward and see kind of like what it is that you're seeking. Sometimes the answers that we've been looking for have been inside of us all along. We just kind of have to take enough time to sit there and like be quiet to listen. But okay, so we've got the cards here. So what is it that your spirit guide has been, or your spirit team on the other side has been trying to get through to you? So we've got the Three of Pentacles in reverse here for the kind of core aspect of the situation, the kind of past of it. So Three of Pentacles in reverse is kind of like a lack of teamwork and cooperation. So I feel like for some of you, you may have been having a difficult time with either coworkers. This is people that you work with in a kind of financial aspect. Neighbors for some people, it's kind of people that you interact with on a kind of more platonic level than super like friendship oriented things. This is kind of people that you interact with in a less kind of like harmonious, emotional, heart connected way. So with it being in reverse, there's kind of disharmony in that aspect. And kind of like what it is that they're trying to tell you about that is the Queen of Wands in reverse here. So Queen of Wands, when it's upright, is all about kind of like this sense of courage and confidence. It's kind of like this fiery aspect of the Empress card. And so it's like, with it being in reverse, it's kind of almost like, to me, this speaks of like an ego wound. So it's like somebody who had someone or something happen that kind of knocked them a little bit off of their confidence. And so because of that, they're kind of almost trying to overcompensate for that by like really showcasing, that they're trying to be in charge. Or even for some people, it's like, when they get kind of like knocked down to their ego, sometimes it's like they can become overly shy and like overly sensitive. But either way, either ends of the spectrum, it kind of stems from a wound to the ego. And so with this card being here, that could be kind of why there is difficulty with working with these other people, is either somebody else in the group is being difficult because they've been wounded in the past. Most people are not difficult just because they love it. Everyone's hurting in their own ways. We never know what somebody has gone through. We all know the saying. Or it could even be that you are being a little bit difficult in this situation, and it's because your ego feels a little bit wounded by something in the situation. Again, I think the core thing to kind of refer back to here is kind of like what's important about this, what the kind of core aspect behind it is, and that will be the driving light forward. And that can help you guys kind of work through this too. So the kind of current situation or current energy that you're going through is the Ten of Swords in reverse. So Ten of Swords, when it's upright, is all about having all of these thoughts, all of this mental chatter kind of getting the best of you. The card right before this is the Nine of Swords, which is all about negative self-talk, our personal demons, negative mind, kind of just like being very harsh and critical to us. The Ten of Swords is when we kind of like become overcome with that. It's like, it's like our mind gets the best of us. We just become mentally overworked and exhausted and just like are overloaded. We have too much on our mind and it is just weighing us down. It's like we have too much to think about that we can't think at all. With it being in reverse, it's almost like there's the lessening of that. It could even be that kind of one of the reasons why things are there's just a lot of difficulty right now is because there are so many ideas being thrown together. And so by kind of like simplifying, I think trying to remove some of those swords and kind of just getting to that core essence, you know, with that Hermit card here, I think that'll be kind of like the best thing you can do to kind of help work through this. The linking card here is the High Priestess. So the High Priestess is all about following our intuition, that kind of inner sense of knowing that we have. And particularly how the High Priestess kind of pops through is it's like when we kind of first see something, we kind of get that little glimmer into kind of what the end result is going to be. So it's like when someone says, you know, let's take the group setting thing here. It's like someone says an idea and you can think about it and be like, oh yeah, I could actually kind of see that working out. Or you see it play out in your mind's eye and you're just like, wow, oh my God, no one's going to go for that. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But there's this kind of core focus on this kind of end result. And I think this kind of even almost ties a little bit back to that Hermit where it's about this kind of like core value. It's like, to me, it's like the Hermit, the star in his lantern is the star from the Major Arcana, which is a later Major Arcana card. And the High Priestess is also the only like early Major Arcana card with a blue background in the traditional deck, and all of the other blue sky background colored cards in the Major Arcana are the very later ones that start with the star. So to me, these two are also kind of, or you know, the star ambiguously over here are all kind of linked together a little bit. And so I think by kind of following your intuition and kind of what it's telling you about the end result, that can also kind of help with this, but don't let your own bruised ego for some of you out there get in the way of seeing that ultimately, because again, we want to tie back to this core idea or belief here, or if this is somebody else in the group, if you can help them kind of tie back to this core idea, that can kind of, I think, help assist with you being able to kind of help with that High Priestess nudge when it does come through to you. Okay, and so for the next card here, so for the kind of like future, we've got the 10 of Wands in reverse. So 10 of Swords in reverse, 10 of Wands in reverse. When you lessen the kind of mental load, that also lessens the like things that you actually have to do. So the less ideas you have thrown into the mix here, the less that all of you in this kind of group here are going to actually have to do, which is really nice. Again, simplicity I think will be best here. I think that will have the best option of actually playing out to the end for some of the people here. And I think also it's like that could be one of the reasons why there is just so much conflict in the group happening right now, is just that there is so much that is trying to happen. And so starting off simple, you know, and then building into the more complex things that you guys need to later on, I think would also be good. You know, again, especially kind of like with these two here, one of the things that they're trying to tell me is like, you know, if this is a thing that you guys can keep working on, you know, there's no time limit for, you know, loose, you know, super strict time limit, you know, you can start slow and then build. And I think that kind of gradual progression may be best, especially when things are as complicated as there maybe are, or as some people are maybe trying to make them be. But okay. So the last one here for the tarot before we get into the oracle cards is the Knight of Wands in reverse. So this here is kind of like about stagnation, so it's like a lack of ability to move forward. So kind of makes sense. It's kind of like right now that's where the situation is. There's kind of like this lack of ability to move forward because there is kind of all of this conflicting energy and stuff. I think if things don't change, I think it will continue to not move forward. But you know, with this being here in the future too, I think it's like, to read it as if it's like all of these things are so you do lessen the load. You know, you do lessen the mental load, and then you kind of lessen the actual load that you do have to work on. I think when that happens, it's like things won't feel like they're moving as quickly as they may feel like they are now as well for some people. The Knight of Wands is a very quick-paced card. It's like one of the ways that Crowley, I think, reads the court cards is like they all have different kind of elemental associations with them. The knights are associated with the element of air, Wands is with fire. When you feed air into fire, it just kind of stokes the flame a little bit. With it being in reverse, I think this can be kind of like a slower, steady, gradual burn rather than that very quick, fast fed flame, which can be good. I think that's kind of what you're wanting to have happen here, kind of, or what you guys are trying to build is something that's like a little bit more lasting. And so I think that's why it's kind of like better to focus on just kind of like the basics right now and build, because you do want it to have a very secure and stable foundation. But okay, so oracle cards. So we've got Sun Bear in reverse, Raven, and Balance. So Sun Bear to me is kind of like the sun card in this deck, which is fitting that we've got the Queen of Wands in reverse, because there's that kind of solar sunny energy with that sunflower, both in reverse. So again, to me, kind of reading as like a bruised ego, something about not being able to kind of like shine their brightest, or kind of like trying to shine too brightly. Again, that kind of wound to just kind of like self-expression or kind of self-comfort in some way. The next one here is the Raven, and so the Raven is kind of like one of the messengers in this deck. The Ravens kind of sit on the shoulders of Odin, kind of like, you know, the Allfather in Norse mythology, which I think tarot, or like, you know, this deck draws a lot on. And so with the Raven here, it's kind of like, what do they call it? It's like a psychopomp. They're like messengers. It's like they're messengers, and they also kind of like they signify when they kind of come around that there's like impending change or sometimes death and stuff, because, you know, they eat like carrion and stuff like that. And so with the Raven card coming up, it's like there is change, there is a shift, there is a transition that is going to happen here. It is one that is going to have to come through like death per se, and so it's like not like physical death, no sacrifices, don't go, you know, just like getting rid of the person who's making things difficult. I'm not advocating for that, LOL. But, you know, like an ego death, it's like something's got to give in order for something else to have, you know, it's like in a conflict, it's like in order for there to be compromise, someone has to be willing to give a little bit here, give a little bit here. There's got to be that kind of like reluctant acceptance, that kind of like that giving in. That I think is going to have to happen here, a little bit, maybe from all parties involved, but there is going to have to be some compromise, which makes sense with Balance, that compromise. So it's like, in order to have this, I think, fully play out, it's like you will have to kind of like honor and respect everybody who's involved with this situation. And something about that is just really something that your spirit guides wanted to have come through to you today, is that it's like, in order to work through this thing, I think it's kind of just like balance and compromise are the key words. It's not about kind of like who is right or who is wrong. It's about kind of tackling this situation. So there you go. That is what I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching pile 3. If you like this, go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. Go ahead and ring that bell notification so you can get alerts for when I post new videos. And if you like the decks that I used today, you can go ahead and buy these in my shop on my website, which I've linked down below. I've got the Luna edition, the illuminated edition of the Ethereal Visions deck, so the holographic and the gold foil version. The Luna edition is the newer one. It's a little bit more diverse in like skin tone and representation and other forms as well. And then this is the Oracle deck by Matt Hughes. It is the Dreamscape Oracle. So thank you guys so much, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.